What's up, guys? I'm back again. Kind of probably gotten tired of hearing that from me, and you'll hear it again or not. Um, but I just wanted to spitball a little bit, talk about this video a little bit out ahead. So I work a lot, and while I was at work, I just started thinking, like, man, I really miss making videos. And so this one, like, specifically, was one that I've wanted to make since I was like 9 years old. And obviously the lore is kind of out there. It's run away a little bit. I just thought it was a good place to get back in on. I have a lot of passion projects on this channel lined up that honestly, I don't care if they do well. I don't expect them to do well. I know the editing in this video isn't going to be great. I know my quality isn't great. I've already delayed it by like a month, but I'm recording this before I've actually done most of the work, and thank you for watching.
Hello? Hello? I wanted to record a message for you to help you get settled in on your first night.
Five Nights at Freddy's is a franchise that really needs no introduction. The simplistic yet terrifying and unique first installment in the series spawned 5 sequels, 2 VR games, 12 books, countless fan games, and even a terrible money grab. Alright, this is me recording like a month after I recorded that last clip. There's actually like 20 something books, which is a ridiculous amount of fucking books to have for this game. Alright, back to the script. These games hold a special place in my and many others' hearts. I remember staying up all night watching live streams of Sister Location when it released. Little did I know this release would throw the lore off a fucking cliff, and I blame this release for the incoherent and obsessive theories that have been released over the last few years, and it low-key destroyed my love for the franchise. I completely fell out of the fandom after Sister Location. And that's a story for another day, but now when you go on YouTube and type Five Nights at Freddy's timeline, you'll be bombarded with constant mentions of the crying child, the vengeful spirit, and even a separate video game dimension. But the biggest thing you'll see is people split on the timeline, looking at every minute piece of evidence or every word to try and figure out the order in which the events of Five Nights at Freddy's took place. There's nothing wrong with any of these theories either. There's usually good evidence or logic behind a lot of these conclusions, and I actually look to a lot of them for inspiration in this video. Except that video game world. I might not know what I'm talking about, but I really can't get behind it. That's enough exposition though. If you're watching this video, you know what Five Nights at Freddy's is, and if you don't, I can't say this is the best place to start. I do want to lay out some groundwork here. I'm not an expert on this franchise. I loved it as a kid, but as I've grown up, I've fallen out. I may say things in this video that many completely disagree with. My timelines might not add up, and my theories may already be disproven at the time of recording. At the end of the day, this is just my headcanon. I don't expect anyone to apply this to their own theories. I just feel as though I have a sort of unique perspective. I only ever even read The Silver Eyes, and that's about as far as I went out of the original games. That being said, I don't use a lot of common sources for this video. It's almost an oversimplified version of the game's timeline, as I believe it should be. I will, however, be using commonly accepted names and terms that may or may not be from the books, if they have been accepted in the canon, of course. I've also decided to take the Wendigoon route. I don't want to spend half my video explaining where I got my information and why I've made certain connections. At the end of the day, this is my passion project. It's not meant to be a perfect telling of the story. For that, I'd recommend channels like Gibby's Horror Homestead, Dual Process Theory, Hyperdroid, or even Old Reliable Game Theory. And now with that, we can finally actually get into this story a little bit. We begin our story with a man you may have heard of,
The William After?
Afton. William Afton doesn't get much backstory, but we do know he had 3 kids. Michael, Elizabeth, and a kid with no name. Off to a real strong start, but in this one, I'm just going to call him CC for crying child. Now, William was an entrepreneur with a business partner. His name is Henry. I'm not sure exactly how these two came to meet, but we do know a place named Chica's Party World existed, and I like to think this was Henry's business. I'm sure plenty of theorists already have issue with this, but I saw it in a game theory video and it just made sense. Due to us never seeing it in-game, it can be assumed that by the events of Five Nights at Freddy's, it had already been merged with William's company, forming Fazbear Entertainment. William also owned his own restaurant, which we do in fact see during the Five Nights at Freddy's 4 minigames, Fredbear's Family Diner. This unassuming family restaurant will be the catalyst for the entire story going forward. William and Henry both had a knack for robotics. This allowed them to stand out from competing restaurants with their state-of-the-art animatronics. Animatronics that could walk around the restaurant and interact with guests. The animatronics at Fredbear's were Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. Side note, I hate the name Spring Bonnie. It makes 0 sense to name the animatronic after the mechanism inside of it. But that's a pretty alright segue into the spring locks. Spring locks were a William Afton creation. These allowed the suits to be both used as suits and animatronics. Employees would use a crank to pull the robotic parts back, allowing them to climb inside and wear the suit and walk around the restaurant. However, the consequences of this creation left much to be desired.
When using an animatronic as a suit, please ensure that the animatronic parts are tightly compressed and fastened by the spring locks located around the inside of the suit. It may take a few moments to position your head and torso between these parts in a manner where you can move and speak. Try not to nudge or press against any of the spring locks inside the suit. Do not touch the spring locks at any time. Do not breathe on the spring locks, as moisture may loosen them and cause them to break loose. In the case that the spring locks come loose while you are wearing a suit, please try to maneuver away from populated areas before bleeding out. That does not ruin the customer experience. As always, if there is ever an emergency, please go to the designated safe room. Every location is built with one extra room that is not included in the digital map layouts programmed in the animatronics or security systems. This room is hidden to customers, invisible to animatronics, and is always off camera. As always, remember to smile. You are the face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Henry also has a child, Charlotte Emily. There's a common thought that Henry was a good guy during the entire story, but I don't subscribe to that belief. It seems he was just as responsible for the misgivings of Fazbear Entertainment as William himself, turning a blind eye to the egregiously dangerous spring-lock suits. Likely at the same time Fazbear Entertainment was founded, a new restaurant would open, with its own set of characters: Chica, Foxy, Bonnie, and the new star, Freddy Fazbear. The restaurant would likewise be named Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. These animatronics would also be dual-purpose spring-lock suits. We never see this location in-game, at least not yet, but you'll see it may be the single most important in the entire franchise. We begin with William's sons, Cece and Mike. Mike is the older of the two, with a few friends and hobbies. Cece is younger, and very easily frightened. Unfortunately for Cece, Mike's favorite hobby is scaring the shit out of Cece. We know that Cece is afraid of the animatronics at Fredbear's, but I'm not sure whether this is because of Mike or because he saw something. It really doesn't matter, but I lean towards it being Mike's doing. His favorite scare tactics are locking him in rooms and putting on a Foxy mask and jumping out at him. At this time, it can be inferred that Fazbear Entertainment is doing very well. They have their own merchandise, a TV show, and multiple locations. This causes William to become absorbed in his work, leaving Cece with Mike. I know this was generally thrown out by the community, but I still believe William is talking to Cece through the Fredbear plush, like a nanny cam. It does say things that don't make sense from time to time, like when he's locked in the restaurant itself, But I personally think that that's just Cece's imagination running with the talking plush. It makes sense, him being a kid. Now, at this point, if you're familiar with the story, you might be wondering, where is Elizabeth? And, I know that there's a bedroom in the house that is, from a girl, but at this point in the franchise, I don't think it is fair to. And I said I wasn't going to explain myself, but I don't think it's fair to put sister location before this just because she's not there. Yeah, clearly there's some references to a girl living in the house, but I mean, we don't see his wife either, and obviously you need a mother and a father to make a kid, so I would assume that she is just with them. And Elizabeth didn't actually exist at the time of Five Nights at Freddy's 4's release, so essentially the easiest and most simple assumption I believe is the right one. She's with her mother, who is also not present. William had planned a birthday party for his son Cece, likely hosting it at Fredbear's out of pure convenience, Cece having nightmares in the days leading up to the party. Mike would also continue his terror, going as far as leaving him inside Fredbear's seemingly overnight. The children outside continue to feed into his fear, building him up for the upcoming party. And yet again, Mike jump scares him and now locks him in a parts closet. The day of the party is here, and Mike has planned his ultimate scare. He brings his friends to the party, wearing masks of their own. Mike and his friends pick CC up and carry him over to the animatronics he fears so much, joking that he wants to give Fredbear a kiss. The boys put CC in Fredbear's mouth, and after only a few seconds, it's around this time I believe two things happen. A spring lock failure happens at a separate location, as Freddy's is a franchise.
There's been a slight change of company policy concerning use of the suit. Don't. After learning of an unfortunate incident at the sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures, the company has deemed the suit temporarily unfit for employees. Safety is top priority at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which is why the classic suits are being retired to an appropriate location while being looked at by our technicians.
Henry, wanting to keep his daughter safe in response to Cece's death, builds a new animatronic. One that can keep her safe and make sure nobody hurts her the way Mike hurt Cece. He built the puppet, a security robot that would follow her around. William, grief-stricken and angry, leaves his home one night. He blames Mike for what happens, but can't stand to see the legacy continue after what it did to his son. William was never a good man. All he needed for that to be realized was this. We don't know exactly what his plans were going to Freddy's that night, but whatever they were quickly changed when he saw Charlie, Henry's daughter, standing outside in the rain. She's crying. The puppet is trapped in its box, and bullies have locked her outside. He decides then to show Henry how it feels, to teach Henry a lesson. William kills Charlie, leaving her out in the rain. The puppet frees itself from its box, going outside after Charlie, but it's too late. The puppet lays next to her body, short-circuiting due to the rain, and dying there with Charlie. Charlie's soul fused to the animatronic puppet. Henry covers up the death of his daughter, so as to keep the company afloat after the recent tragedy. Charlie is declared missing. With Fredbear's closed, William has nothing but time, and now he's tasted blood. William hatches a plan. He breaks into Freddy's, stealing his old Spring Bonnie suit. One by one, William lures 4 more kids into back rooms, murdering them and stuffing them into the animatronics to hide his crimes. The location shuts down, but while William was in there, he noticed something. The puppet followed him, and as he stuffed bodies into suits, they also began to roam around while he was there. William begins to theorize that the souls of the children somehow have attached to the animatronics, controlling them. Unbeknownst to him, Charlie's soul has taken over the animatronic puppet. Charlie then proceeded to give life to the 4 other children dead in Freddy's, allowing them to take over and essentially use the animatronics as their new bodies. William decides that this possession is how he will put his son back together. He immediately gets to work. William takes little time setting his plan into motion. He has a bunker built under his home, secretly, and builds his own set of animatronics. Out of spite for his old partner, he replicates Freddy's animatronics. He builds Funtime Freddy, and even rips the exact design for Funtime Foxy off the child-friendly version Henry built for the old location. But his magnum opus is Circus Baby. She can dance, she can sing, and you've all heard that before. But the real feature is her child-snatching stomach claw. The other animatronics are fitted with lures and distractions to help Baby get alone with the child. Also, William can experiment with possession. His plan is perfect, except for a couple things. William will be competing with his old partner because he has opened another restaurant of his own. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is making a comeback, and this time, Henry won't leave anything to chance. Rather than one security robot, he has turned the whole cast into security robots. The toy animatronics have had facial recognition technology fitted into them and are connected to a criminal database. The old animatronics are moved too, and parts are taken off of them for the new toys. They even keep the old Foxy animatronic, retrofitting it and leaving it as a take-apart attraction it was at the old location. Despite all of this, William looks to open Circus Baby's Pizza World before Freddy's. Elizabeth has taken a liking to Circus Baby.
Daddy just once let me go play with her. She's so pretty and shiny. Didn't you make her just for me?
Despite her father's insistence on keeping her away from the animatronic, the first day of operation, Elizabeth finds herself alone in a room with Circus Baby. Following William's programming, Baby lures her in with ice cream and quickly grabs her, pulling her into the compartment in her stomach and killing her. It takes little time for William to find this and close the restaurant under the guise of gas leaks. This leads to rumors, upon revealing his daughter's death, causing people to connect it with Freddy's.
Oh, hey, before I go, I wanted to ease your mind about any rumors you might have heard lately. You know how these local stories come and go and seldom mean anything. I can personally assure you that whatever is going on out there, however tragic it may be, has nothing to do with our establishment. It's just all rumor and speculation, people trying to make a buck, you know.
William pays little mind, however. Baby's eyes have changed color, now matching his daughter's. Realizing his experiment has worked, he moves his animatronics to his bunker, and now sets his sights back on Freddy's. He applies under an alias and becomes the night shift security guard on week 1. The spirits inside the old animatronics immediately recognize him, attempting to enter his office. The toy animatronics also act erratically, containing possessed parts from the old robots. William brings this to management attention and is moved to the day shift. Jeremy Fitzgerald, serving as his replacement, is experiencing the same behavior from the robots as William, due to his outfit matching William's. William finds his old suit in the back, and one night after his shift, he dresses in it and leaves the restaurant. He goes to a nearby house, luring a child he's seen at the restaurant out his window and kidnapping them, leading to an investigation at the Freddy's location. William brings the child to Freddy's, placing them inside the Fredbear animatronic, the very same animatronic that contains the soul of his son. He pulls back the spring lock, places the child inside, and releases them, giving the child a gruesome death. He's seen on camera bringing the child in, causing a lockdown. William retreats into his bunker, disappearing again. Michael Afton has been paying attention to the unfolding events, believing his father is behind all of it. It can be assumed he hasn't spoken to or seen his father much. Michael decides to go to Freddy's as a security guard for the night shift as Jeremy's replacement. This is where Mike learns of the child found in the yellow suit from Phone Guy and learns that the animatronics are unsafe.
Hello? What on earth are you doing there? Didn't you get the memo? The place is closed down, at least for a while. Someone used one of the suits. We had a spare in the back, a yellow one. someone used it. Now none of them are acting right. Listen, just finish your shift. It's safer than trying to leave in the middle of the night.
Phone Guy doesn't explicitly say, but it is believed that during Jeremy's first day shift, while trying to maintain the mangle, he is bitten on the head, ripping his frontal lobe out, believing him to be William. This would go on to be known as the Bite of 87. Now it's time to address a couple things. Mike is fired for tampering with the animatronics and odor. This is not as deep as people think. He was not rotting at this time, and sister location did not happen before this. It was a joke, and that's it. I'd also like to address the Save Them minigame and the dead children incident. It didn't happen. It's a minigame from a bygone era of the story. I like to think it's more of a representation now. Almost like the spirit inside the animatronic is hallucinating the dead children around the restaurant. At this point, there was no Spring Bonnie or Springtrap. Not everything has to be taken so literally when the story was made this wildly. The new location is closed, and the toys are scrapped. Henry takes the old animatronics again, moving them back to the old location for storage and potential future plans. This is probably the shortest chapter in this video. It only covers a FNAF 1 location, and in hindsight, it probably should have been combined with another chapter, but I got to see it through. In an effort to squeeze any money he can out of the company, Henry goes back to his old location, the location that started it all. He refurbishes his old animatronics, modernizing and slightly retrofitting them. At this point, Phone Guy, or maybe Ralph, is what the fans call him, Henry's most loyal employee, is the full-time night security guard. I imagine the writing was on the wall for the decrepit old restaurant, and Phone Guy finally decided to hand in his notice. Going into the last week of his employment, he begins recording instructions for his replacement. For an unknown reason, the animatronics attack and kill him on his fourth night. A fun theory I subscribe to is that he possesses the phone, which is why the Night 5 phone call sounds like this. The job listing is posted in the paper, and an overly enthusiastic applicant shows up. Michael Afton. Mike is committed to uncovering the secrets his father left behind. He shows up to work on Monday, immediately noticing the movement of the animatronics. He hallucinates. He sees the newspaper clippings on the walls. He sees the words "It's me" throughout his time there, and of course, defends himself from the onslaught. There isn't much more lore-wise to talk about here, so Mike survives, being fired once again after just 1 week, even more determined. The location shuts down again due to poor profits and poor cleanliness. William comes back out of hiding. He's a fugitive now, most likely. He enters the location at night. By this point, it seems he has both Remnant and Agony figured out, as he lures the animatronics using Shadow Freddy, bringing them into the back room so he can rip them apart and take the soul-infused metal back to his bunker to inject into his animatronics. After collecting the Remnant, or soul juice, he injects it into the endoskeletons of the Fun Times, and it works. They come to life. The soul amalgamation gives life to the machines, and he is one step closer. He returns to the location, looking for just a little more, but he's cut off. The children's spirits find him. The broken souls left in the restaurant are pissed. They chase him into a back room, where he gets in his old spring-lock suit to ward off the spirits. It works, but as he's laughing, the water leaking from the ceiling causes his spring locks to break loose, ripping into him like knives. The spirits watch as he dies. Henry eventually finds him in one of the last back rooms not sealed off, and has it sealed off, leaving a dead and mangled Afton there to rot. After a few weeks, Michael notices his father is MIA. He remembers what he told him years ago. Michael decides it's time to honor what he was told and enter his father's secret bunker. Alright, I lied. This is the shortest chapter, and it covers 2 games, so that tells you how simple it gets after these few games that I just read through. Mike enters the bunker, unsure of what he will find. He quickly realizes that the operation happening down here is much more sophisticated than he thought. William has been running a company down here, right under his nose, a rental company. It's not known if he brought more kids down here, but that's not really important to the story. Mike is walked through the various tasks by hand unit, and is introduced to the animatronics. The gameplay events are also not that important. While down here, Mike realizes his sister is in Circus Baby, now connecting the dots that his father was responsible for the death of his younger sister. Mike is eventually put in a spring-lock suit, fighting for his life inside, but surviving. I don't think this suit has any real lore significance, I think it's just a red herring. Mike finds himself inside the scooping room, and Baby's plan is revealed. She and the other souls trapped in the animatronics have combined and plan to enter Mike's body to basically wear him and get out of the bunker. Mike is scooped, killed, and entered. The amalgamation of animatronics enters his body. They pass for a short while, but soon find that Mike's body will not last. I kinda like how dual process theory described this. They're like 8. They don't know that bodies decay. They vacate, but Mike doesn't die. The remnant from the scooper and his pure determination to find his father keep him alive. He stands up and delivers a message to his father.
Father, it's me, Michael. I did it. I found it. It was right where you said it would be. They were all there. They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you. And I found her. I put her back together, just like you asked me to. She's free now. But something is wrong with me. I should be dead, but I'm not. I've been living in shadows. There is only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you. I'm going to come find you.
A little under 30 years passes. Now I know that it is 30 years, but we're after the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 1. Just gonna cover that now because I can already see it in the comments. Mike's still searching, living in the shadows, until he eventually sees a job listing for a new horror attraction, Fazbear Frights. Knowing this is his chance, he applies, and gets the job weeks before opening. After a while of working there, Mike is ready to cut his losses and quit, thinking he has no chance here. But he receives a phone call.
But I have an even better surprise for you. And you're not gonna believe this. We found one. A real one. Gotta go, man. Well, look, it's in there somewhere. I'm sure you'll see it. Okay, I'll leave you with some of this great audio that I found. Talk to you later, man.
Mike checks his cameras, finding the Springtrap suit, knowing his father is in there. He does the one thing he can think of. He brings a lighter and fuel to work, ready to take his father down to hell with him. He burns the building to the ground. By all measures, the story should end here, and it was supposed to. We quickly find out it isn't. The souls in Ennard are still on the loose, and both Mike and William escape the fire. William gets away, and Mike is back to square one. He continues his search, in the shadows, and laments his failure. Until one day, Mike sees a franchising opportunity in the paper. Now, a franchising opportunity doesn't seem like a big deal, but he sees the company, Fazbear Entertainment. You guys have no idea how good it feels to finally be on the final chapter of this video. Mike accepts the opportunity. I'm not sure where he got the money, that's whatever. He's tasked with opening his very own restaurant. Quickly, Mike realizes that the man behind the curtain seems to have the same goal, ordering him to bring all the animatronics from the alley behind the restaurant into the restaurant. Between Sister Location and Pizzeria Simulator, the souls in Ennard must have decided they didn't like taking orders from their murderer's daughter. Can't say I blame them, so she is cast out of Ennard, eventually putting herself together and finding her way to the new restaurant. The first animatronic Mike encounters is Molten Freddy, the remaining pieces of Ennard without Circus Baby. Mike brings him into the restaurant, warding off the angry souls throughout that night. The next night, he sits across from a familiar face. The damaged face of Circus Baby peers at him. He brings his sister in as well, her thinking this place is a gift for her. She also attacks Mike. Then he finally sits face to face with the man he's been looking for, the man behind the slaughter, William Afton. He's taken Springtrap's body and pieced it together using the remains of other animatronics, forming himself into Scraptrap. The ugliest fucking design of any fucking animatronic in this game. It's so terrible. He could have just been a scarier version of Springtrap. Tangent over. It's fine. Let me find my place again. I imagine at this point, William has discovered a way to control the trapped souls, who after all this time seem to have lost their sense of self and have regressed into mindless hunters. The final animatronic Mike deals with is Lefty, a black bear, reminiscent of Freddy. This creation is built to lure in and capture the puppet, Henry's daughter. She started it all, so it only makes sense that she would be here at the end. On the final night, with all the souls gathered, Circus Baby begins speaking to Mike, telling him this was all set up by William. Hope is lost, and Mike has failed again. Until...
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth, if you still even remember that name, but I'm afraid you've been misinformed. You are not here to receive a gift, nor have you been called here by the individual you assume, although you have indeed been called. You have all been called here, into a labyrinth of sounds and smells, misdirection, and misfortune. A labyrinth with no exit, a maze with no prize. You don't even realize that you are trapped. Your lust for blood has driven you in endless circles, chasing the cries of children in some unseen chamber, always seeming so near, yet somehow out of reach. But you will never find them. None of you will. This is where your story ends. And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be. I am remaining as well. I am nearby. This place will not be remembered, and the memory of everything that started this can finally begin to fade away, as the agony of every tragedy should. And to you monsters trapped in the corridors, be still, and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace, and perhaps more, waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole. So don't keep the devil waiting, friend. My daughter, if you can hear me, I knew you would return as well. It's in your nature to protect the innocent. I'm sorry that on that day, the day you were shut out and left to die, no one was there to lift you up into their arms, the way you lifted others into yours. And then, what became of you? I should have known you wouldn't be content to disappear. Not my daughter. I couldn't save you then, so let me save you now. It's time to rest, for you, and for those you have carried in your arms. This ends, for all of us, in communication.
The final location burns to the ground, setting the souls free and ending all that was, finishing the story. But William is not set free. He is forced into purgatory, cursed to be tortured by his own creations for the rest of eternity, held by the child he spring-locked all those years ago, a vengeful spirit who will never rest, torturing him for all eternity. And thus ends my headcanon of Five Nights at Freddy's. Do not fight me about this, guys. Sometimes a story is just a story. And I think that's really the beautiful part of this game. I think Scott really tried his best with the story, and now it's a clusterfuck dumpster fire, but it's really great in its own way. Five Nights at Freddy's is a series that struggles to end, but to me, this really is the end. The story was wrapped up beautifully, and sometimes we just need to let it be. Allow the story to be convoluted, but allow those who want to dig at it and find every minute detail do that. This game has given millions of people of enjoyment, playing the games and theorizing. And as long as they keep theorizing, I'll keep watching the videos they put up about it. But for me, I think the whole story is about letting go. Letting go of the past, the things that don't make sense, allowing it to be what it will be. In the words of wise old man Consequences, leave the demons to his demons. Rest your own soul. It's time to let go.
I said, Orville, I have a story. And he said to me, what's the significance of the story? And I said to him, Orville, not every story has to have significance, you know? Sometimes, sometimes a story is just a story. If you try to read into every little thing and find meaning in everything anyone says, you'll just drive yourself crazy. I had a friend do it once. Wasn't pretty. We talked about it for years. And not only that, but you'll likely end up believing something you shouldn't believe and thinking something you shouldn't think, or assuming something you shouldn't assume, you know?